You can hear it before you see it. The slap of water against wood, the creak of rope under tension, voices layering over each other in a dozen languages you don't recognize. And underneath it all, a smell that stops you cold. Not just fish or rot, though there's plenty of that. It's something denser. The smell of a city feeding itself through one artery, and that artery is starting to choke. This is the Thames in the early 1600s, and if you're standing on London Bridge right now, you're standing on the most crowded piece of infrastructure in England. But we're not here for the bridge. We're here for what's moving beneath it. Because this river isn't just geography. It's the supply line, the sewer, the highway, the marketplace, and the mortuary all at once. And the thing that keeps surprising me about London in this period is how completely everything depended on this one muddy channel of water that most of us today would consider undrinkable. Look down. The water isn't blue. It's brown-gray, thick with sediment and moving slower than you'd expect for something this wide. During low tide, you can see the mud banks emerging on both sides, scattered with debris. Broken barrels, rope, things you don't want to look at too closely. But even at low tide, the river is crowded. Wherries, those small passenger boats, are everywhere. Hundreds of them. They're the taxis of London, and the men rowing them are shouting prices, insults, competing for fares. If you need to get from Southwark to Westminster, you don't walk. You take a wherry. The roads are worse. Further out, toward the center of the channel, the ships get bigger. Coastal traders with their sails furled, unloading grain or coal or wool. And beyond them, if the tide is right, you might see the ocean-going vessels, the ones that left months ago and came back with sugar, tobacco, spices. Goods that didn't exist in England a century ago and now people can't imagine living without. The Thames is the front door. Everything comes through here first. We're going to move downriver toward the docks because that's where you start to understand the scale. But first, stay here on the bridge for a moment. London Bridge isn't just a bridge. It's a street. Houses and shops are built along both sides, crammed so tightly that when you're walking across, you can barely see the river below. There's a baker, a haberdasher, a tavern where watermen drink between fares, and at the southern end on tall pikes there are heads. Traitors, criminals, people who fell on the wrong side of power. They've been there so long the flesh is gone. It's a reminder, but also just part of the landscape now. No one looks up anymore. From the bridge, we're heading east downstream. The city starts to change. The stone buildings give way to timber warehouses, and the smell intensifies. This is Billingsgate, the fish market. It's been here for centuries, but in the 1600s it's exploding. Every morning, boats pull up and unload their catch directly onto the wharves. Cod, herring, oysters by the thousands. If you're poor, fish is what you eat. If you're wealthy, fish is still what you eat on Fridays and during Lent. The Thames provides it all, but not from its own waters anymore. The river is too polluted. These fish come from the coast, brought upriver by tide and sail. What's strange is how fast things move here. A cargo ship arrives, and within hours its contents are auctioned, loaded onto carts, distributed through the city. There are no refrigerators, no preservatives beyond salt. Speed is survival. If the fish don't sell by midday, they rot. If the grain shipments get delayed by weather, bread prices spike and people start to panic. The river has to keep moving or the city starves. But the Thames isn't just bringing things in. It's taking things out. Look at the banks again. Every few hundred yards there's an outlet. A drain, a pipe, a channel. The city's waste, all of it, flows into the river. Sewage from the houses, offal from the butchers, chemicals from the tanneries along the southern shore. And the river just absorbs it, or tries to. Twice a day, the tide comes in from the North Sea, pushing fresh seawater upstream, mixing with the outflow, flushing some of it back toward the ocean. It's a system, barely. And it works, barely. Until it doesn't. We're moving further downriver now, past the Tower of London, past the naval dockyards. The river is wider here, and the traffic is different. These are the deep-water anchorages where the largest ships wait. Some of them have been at sea for a year. The crews are sick, supplies are low, and the cargo holds are full of goods worth more than most Londoners will see in their lifetimes. But they can't come all the way into the city. The river is too shallow, the bridge blocks passage. So they anchor here and smaller boats swarm around them like pilot fish, unloading piece by piece. This is where you start to realize the Thames isn't just London's river. It's England's river. Everything the country imports, everything it exports, most of it passes through this stretch of water. Wool going to Europe, coal coming from Newcastle, timber from the Baltic, wine from France, even during the wars. The economics of an entire kingdom are bottlenecked here, and if something goes wrong, if the river freezes, if a ship sinks and blocks the channel, if disease breaks out among the watermen, the whole system seizes up. And it does freeze. Not every year, but often enough that people remember. When the Thames freezes solid, it's catastrophic and festive at the same time. The frost fairs, they call them. Entire markets set up on the ice. People roast oxen, sell trinkets, skate between the bridge pilings. It's a carnival, but underneath the celebration there's a city slowly suffocating. No ships can move. No goods arrive. The poor, who live day to day, start to go hungry within a week. The river has to thaw or people die. It's that simple. But even when the river is flowing, it's dangerous. The watermen will tell you. The currents around the bridge are notorious. The arches are narrow, and when the tide shifts, water rushes through them like a rapid. Shooting the bridge, they call it. Small boats try to time it perfectly, riding the surge through. Some don't make it. The bridge pilings are decorated with the wreckage of boats that misjudged the current, and occasionally bodies wash up downstream. Suicides, accidents, murders. The river doesn't distinguish. What surprised me is how intimate the relationship is between Londoners and this river. It's not something they admire from a distance. They live on it, in it, because of it. Children play in the mud at low tide, scavenging for coins or nails or anything sellable. Women wash clothes at the steps, even though the water is filthy. Ferrymen spend 12 hours a day rowing back and forth, their hands calloused, their backs bent, and they do it until they physically can't anymore, and then their sons take over. The Thames is a workplace. It's brutal and it's inescapable. Upstream from the city, the river changes again. Past Westminster, past the palaces, it starts to look almost pastoral. Meadows on both banks. Fishermen casting lines from rowboats. The estates of the wealthy, set back behind gardens that run down to the water. This is where the rich get their water, drawn from the river before it flows through London and becomes undrinkable. There's an entire infrastructure built around this. Private conduits, aqueducts, fountains. If you have money, you can have clean water. If you don't, you drink from the Thames or from public wells that are fed by the Thames, and you get sick. Dysentery, typhoid, cholera. The river gives life and takes it back. But here's the thing. Despite everything, despite the filth and the danger and the sheer chaos of it, the system works. London in the 1600s is growing faster than any city in Europe. By mid-century, it will have 500,000 people. And they're all fed mostly, and supplied mostly, and connected mostly because of this river. It's not elegant. It's not planned. It's 1,000 individual decisions and transactions and improvisations happening simultaneously, held together by tides and human labor. There's a moment when you're standing at the docks at dawn, watching the ships arrive, that the scale of it hits you. These boats came from Hamburg, from Lisbon, from Virginia. They've crossed oceans. They've survived storms and pirates and disease. And they all converge here on this river to feed this city. And then the cargo gets broken down into smaller and smaller units, loaded onto carts and carried into neighborhoods, sold at markets, consumed, turned into waste, flushed back into the river and carried out to sea. It's a circle, a cycle, and it has to keep turning. By the late 1600s, cracks are starting to show. The river is more polluted than it's ever been. The watermen are complaining that new bridges are being proposed, which would destroy their livelihoods. The city is sprawling beyond the river's capacity to support it. Fires, plagues, floods, London survives them, but each one is a reminder of how fragile the system is. The Thames kept the city alive for centuries, but cities outgrow their rivers. They always do. What I keep coming back to is this. When you look at London today, the Thames is almost decorative. It's scenic. It's a tourist attraction. But for most of the city's history, it wasn't something to look at. It was something to use, to depend on, to fear a little. And the people who lived alongside it understood that their survival wasn't guaranteed. It was negotiated daily, with the tides, with the weather, with the river itself. And maybe that's what's easy to forget when you stand on a clean, modern embankment and watch the water flow by. That river remembers a time when it wasn't just part of the city. It was the city.